draft, or conscription to compel service, was once a rite of passage for many young American men. Even though it ended 43 years ago, under the law, young men are still required to register for the draft in case it needs to be revived. Now there's new debate over whether the so-called selective service should be less selective. Should women be required to register too? The call of duty could be a consequence of equal rights on the battlefield.
This means that as long as they qualify and meet the standards, women will now be able to contribute to our mission in ways they could not before.
In December, Defense Secretary Ashton Carter opened every single corner of the military to women without exception.
They'll be able to serve as Army Rangers and Green Berets, Navy SEALs, Marine Corps Infantry, Air Force parajumpers, and everything else that was previously open only to men.
Carter's speech opened a door to women and a new controversy.
Part of me believes that asking women to register, as we asked men to register, would maybe possibly open up more recruits.
Senator Claire McCaskill raised the issue at an Armed Services Committee hearing earlier this month, diving into a decades-old debate newly framed in gender equality.
Senator, it's my personal view that every American who's physically qualified should register for the draft.
Senator, I think that all eligible and qualified men and women should register for the draft.
The question went straight to the Republican contenders to be next commander-in-chief.
Many of you have young daughters. Senator Rubio, should young women be required to sign up for selective service in case of a national emergency?
Well, first, let me say there are already women today serving in roles that are like combat. I do believe that selective service should be opened up for both men and women.
Do you believe young women should sign up for selective service, be required to do so?
I do.
Ted Cruz went hard in the opposite direction.
The idea that we would draft our daughters to forcibly bring them into the military and put them in close combat, I think is wrong.
Of the Democrats, Hillary Clinton had reservations.
The idea of having everybody register concerns me a little bit unless we have a better idea of where that's going to come out.
That's a bit different from 2007.
And I do think that women should register. I doubt very much that we'll ever have to go back to a draft, but I think it is fair to call upon every young American.
Bernie Sanders didn't register for the draft, but instead filed as a conscientious objector. In 1940, Germany was in control of most of Europe, the Battle of Britain was underway, and the U.S. was feeling pressure to enter the war. President Roosevelt launched the first peacetime draft in America's history.
Is serial number 158.
World War II ended, but the draft remained almost unnoticed until the Vietnam War.
I have today ordered to Vietnam the Air Mobile Division and certain other forces which will raise our fighting strength from 75,000 to 125,000 men almost immediately.
The draft created its own conflict on the home front. Most of the men fighting in Vietnam were volunteers, but of those drafted, many came from poor or middle-class families. There were accusations that many deferrals were granted to the sons of the rich and well-connected. In 1969, the draft became a lottery, and it was must-see TV.
September 14th.
By 1973, direct U.S. military action in Vietnam ended, and so did the draft. Today, the director of the Selective Service Agency, Lawrence Romo, keeps those same capsules and glass jar in his office.
The majority of young men are patriotic here in this country. They understand that freedom is not free, and they understand the importance of registration.
It's Romo's job to make sure 18-year-old men still sign up. He says the agency is equipped to on-ramp women. It would need at least 6 months' notice.
We've learned with World War I, World War II, whenever you have a big national emergency, you can never say never.
But wars are run by generals and politicians. No one ever asks the young people who will fight. We thought we would. We asked a group of high school students, young men and women, if women should be required to register.
I think that it's definitely going to be a shock for most women. I do think in terms of establishing an equal and fair chance for everyone, an opportunity for everyone, it's necessary.
And I believe that under the current system, if there is a draft and young men are required to, that young women should also be required to.
I think if a woman truly cares about her country and she wants to show how much of a supporter she is, she'll go off, no question asked.
I think we shouldn't be allowed to pick and choose where we should be equal. I am a strong believer in women's rights and women's equality. So if we want equal pay, we should have the same responsibilities as men do when it comes to serving our country.
But the larger question many people are asking, should anyone be required to register for a draft just in case?
I honestly don't think the draft is necessarily a good thing because I do think it infringes on our rights. But at the same time, I think registration is necessary, as you said, as an insurance policy for our country because we do still have to have that security.
I don't think that military service should be coerced by the government.
I have like a plan for my life and military is not a part of it. But like Ben, I do still plan on serving my country in another way.
The national opinion on registration is split. A recent Rasmussen poll reported 52% of women oppose registering for the draft, while 61% of men feel women should sign up. Ahead on Full Measure, we target government waste. Taxpayer money spent to support high-octane moonshine, if you can believe it, and other questionable projects.